Well, here today we're at Ivory's Rock, and just another fascinating, absolute whiz-kid geo story to be told. In fact, at this particular location, 50 million years ago, I'd have 500 metres of ocean above me. This is the breccia they talk about. So something blew up. You can see all these pieces. They've gone sky high and they've landed down in a chaotic heap. See these little pieces in here? Yeah. And it's sitting in amongst ash and grit and everything else. So the whole thing blew sky high. And then it's come plop down and you can see even big chunks blew up here. See that? It's completely different to that. That's completely different to that. And that's completely different to that. And when it comes down again, it's so hot and glassy that it welds together into a solid big rock. So that's what you call a volcanic breccia. But 26 million years is almost bang on the money here. Whereas by the time you get down to Mugara, you're looking at 25, 24 million. So Australia moved this distance from where I'm standing now at Ivory Rock all the way down to, or from Lake Mugara, sorry, up to here in about 1 to 2 million years. Wow. And if you want to be more impressed than that, to give you an idea of how fast Australia is actually drifting, this is 26 million years, and the plume that came up from the mantle that created this rock is now sitting in Bass Strait. So in 26 million years, Australia's moved the distance from Bass Strait to Ivory Rock. Well, the sandstone at the bottom of this property belongs to a suite of rocks when the Tasman Sea didn't exist, and New Zealand and New Caledonia were a mountain range with Eastern Australia, and all the waters flowing out of that mountain range went into a big inland sea around Lake Eyre and Western Queensland, and those rocks belong to a suite that are dated around about 160 million years, so the time of the dinosaurs. So that's right at the bottom of Ivory Rock. So that's what this rock pushed through at 26 million years. It pushed through rocks that were Jurassic age or the age of the dinosaurs. So here you go, sandstone. This is not the rock that we've been at. This is deposited from a big old river, I think a monstrous old river, I'm starting to think, that started its life somewhere between here and New Zealand or New Caledonia, up at the top of a mountain range, probably in the order of 200 million years ago. This rock here is probably 160, give or take a few million. When this rock was deposited, dinosaurs were running around the earth, right at their height. The surface of this rock has been tilted a bit. It was once flat, but you can see it's tilted back in there a bit. You can see other things here. You see how this one's running flat along there, and this one's coming at an angle. Yeah. That's what we call a crossbed. So I know the water was coming from here, going in that direction, because it's building out a little delta along there. Look at this lovely quartz pebble. Isn't that a beauty? This is exactly what I was hoping to find. Do you see, look at the size of this one. So the river's really moving quite fast here, all these pebbles down here. And that's probably the same bed there, coming around here, down there, and right down here. There's another pebble. river from the age of dinosaurs, Joe.
Yeah? Wow.
Eh?
That's something.
Isn't that magic? No, I can't see any evidence here of an explosion, just a lot of hot lava flowing. Okay. Now, if you want a good picture of lava flowing, that rock there is a ripper. Okay. Just like toffee, it sometimes gets stuck on something and doubles over itself and forms a fold. You can see that on the right-hand side towards the bottom. And then you can see some holes in there. I don't know whether they're original holes or not, but they could be original holes or gas bubbles left behind. And they couldn't escape because the lava was so sticky that the gas couldn't get through the lava and cooled too quickly for them to escape. A really professional geologist will probably tell you this is a rhyolite. And a rhyolite is a granite magma which is taken to the surface and cooled very quickly, so that you can't actually see the crystals with normal sight. You need a hand lens. At this particular location, 50 million years ago, I'd have 500 metres of ocean above me. And we'd be in the deep sea, and the muds that were being deposited out there would look a little bit like this. The white bands are coarse sediment, and the dark bands are fine sediment. And the fine sediment represents the dry season, where the mud floats way out to sea, and the light sediment, which is a little bit coarser, is the wet season, where the grains wash off the mountain ranges and the beaches. And sometimes we get further out to sea and there is less sand and they become more muddy. Sometimes we go right out to sea and we get bands of silica which are known as chert, and often that comes banded with red bands of red silica known as jasper, because the little beast that sinks to the bottom chews up iron in the water, and that's seasonal. And then sometimes there's an earthquake, and we found them close to here, little chocolate chip rocks I call them, or tsunami rocks. They show you that the bottom of the sea floor rushed down the slope because there was an earth tremor on the shelf somewhere. And lastly, just south of Warwick, we found old coral reefs, 350 million year old coral reefs. You can see the corals in closely there. And that tells us we were in an area that was warm enough to have coral reefs, unstable enough to have earthquakes and tsunamis, deep enough water to have little beasts and no mud or sand mixed up with them that sank to the bottom and formed silica-rich rocks, and coming in closer, some banded seasonal rocks with very fine sand and mud. Now I can take that in my first painting and I can show you, when I polish it up, the little red rocks which are jaspers. I can show you the dark blue rocks through there, which are cherts. I can show you the chocolate chip or tsunami rocks, which are sitting in these fans as it comes off the shelf into the deep sea this side, shallow sea that side. And I can show you the coral reefs around the islands. And there's a little pink line I've drawn all the way through here. And that represents the ocean floor going underneath the continent, taking all this red and blue rock underneath this medium blue and light blue rock down to a depth of maybe 100 kilometres or more. Here we're talking crust thickness 8 kilometres, and over here about 35 kilometres. Ivory rock, I think, was probably sitting somewhere in the middle here, somewhere along this line. And along that pink line where the rock's going down, you get all this scrunching and crunching. And this is the rock here, the pink rock that sits along there, although it's actually green here in my artistic representation of it. And you can see how it's slidden and polished all that rock as one plate slides against the other. Ivory's rock is part of a magic story, a chapter in Australia that left the South Pole and migrated north. At Ivory's rock, we can see a plume that's underneath Australia, melting the underside of Australia, getting lots of silica out of the rocks and making the sticky lava that gives volcanic ash and debris and blows into the air. And then we see just 1 million years after Australia passing over Ivory's rock, we hit the plates of Asia and the Solomon Islands and we start sliding sideways. And at about 22 million years, we somehow or other start wriggling under Australia, under Indonesia, and moving fast again. As you see the volcanic peaks here, I've painted further apart than I have in the scenic rim. So here we're moving at 71 kilometres per million years. Here we're moving at 26 kilometres per million years. Here we're back up to about 61 kilometres per million years. And the plume that formed Ivory's rock is now under Bass Strait. So if you like, Australia has drifted from Bass Strait to Ivory's rock in 26 million years. Thank you.